Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today, we're finally back after so goddamn long. We've finally got another UFC event, thank God. It's taken forever. Anyway, we have UFC 324, Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. Who cares? Anyway, let's get straight into it. Starting off with the first fight on the card we have is Ty Miller versus Adam Fugit. Ty Miller is 6-0, hasn't faced the highest level of competition yet, but he's doing exactly what an unbeaten prospect should be doing, winning consistently and showing steady improvement. His most recent win over Jimmy Drago by decision highlighted his biggest strengths: patience, cardio, and fight IQ. Miller doesn't rush finishes or force exchanges. He's comfortable managing pace, mixing and wrestling when needed, and letting the fight breathe. For a young, undefeated fighter, the composure matters a lot when moving up levels. On the other hand, Adam Fugit is 10-5. He's more battle-tested and has been thrown in against some real hitters. That experience is useful, but it also left some dents in his last fight, ending in a first-round TKO loss to Islam Doltatov, and that fits a pattern. Fugit tends to get caught early when opponents pressure with clean combinations. On the flip side, he's live when he gets his rhythm going, especially with his long leg kicks and clinch entries. But he needs time and space to get there. Stylistically, this fight comes down to discipline versus volatility. Fugit is probably the bigger immediate threat. He can crack, and if Miller sleepwalks through and exchanges an exchange he could pay for it. But over 3 rounds, Miller's consistently wrestling option and ability to bank control time makes things difficult for Fugit. If Miller avoids wildfire fights and focuses on staying responsible defensively, he should be able to take rounds by mixing strikes and grappling without much drama. Given Fugit's tendency to fade when opponents won't give up the range or rhythm he wants, a composed prospect like Miller is a tough matchup. So my prediction, give me Ty Miller by decision. He's steady, controlled, and likely leaning on pace, and occasionally wrestling to secure rounds. So give me Ty Miller by decision. Next fight on the card we have is Josh Hockett versus Denzel Freeman. Josh Hockett comes into this matchup undefeated at 7-0, and he fights like someone who knows he can take people out early. His last win was a TKO in the first round over Max Gimnis. Showed exactly what makes him dangerous. He doesn't need much time to get going, and once he finds his range, he turns the pressure fast. Hockett carries real power and confidence in exchanges, and that finish stronger. Style is tough to deal with for anyone who needs time to settle in. Denzel Freeman is 7-1. He's a different kind of test. He's more seasoned in terms of pacing, and his last victory over Mark Brillo came by decision, which tells you he can stay disciplined, stick to a plan, and handle the fight without falling apart. Freeman's biggest strengths are durability and composure. He doesn't panic, he doesn't gas quickly, and he's comfortable grinding out rounds if needed. The contrast is clear. Hockett is an early hammer, Freeman is the steady grinder. Freeman can survive the first few minutes, drag into the second half of the fight, and make things ugly in the clinch or on the mat. He could definitely make it interesting, but the problem is getting through the early storm. Hockett isn't just winning, he's finishing, and he's doing it before opponents even get the chance to adjust. Based on how both guys typically fight, the bigger danger zone is round 1, where Hockett is his most explosive, and Freeman hasn't yet had time to impose his slower mythological pacing. It's my prediction. Give me Josh Hockett by TKO in the first round. Next fight on the card we have is Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. Michael Johnson is 24-19, He's one of those veterans who's seen every style of sport has to offer. His last fight was a decision win over Daniel Zellhuber. He showed he can still use his speed, straight shots, and experience to control rounds against younger, longer fighters. Johnson's boxing has always been sharp, especially his straight left, and his ability to hit the pocket, lands clean, and exit before getting caught. The big thing with Johnson has never been skill, it's consistency and durability over 3 rounds. When he's switched on, he can beat legitimate contenders. He's done it more than once. When he's not, when he gets clipped, momentum can flip quickly. Alexander Hernandez is 18-8, coming off a TKO win over Diego Ferreira, which fits his profile: fast starter, explosive bursts, and real athletic power. Hernandez loves to blitz and combination, change levels, and force you to defend mistakes early. He's extremely dangerous. He crashes distance fast, throws with heat, and makes opponents uncomfortable before they can establish rhythm. The question with Hernandez has always been whether the urgency can last. But when he's fresh, few fighters in a lightweight match that kind of physicality. This matchup comes down to timing and early momentum. Johnson is at his best once he settles in and starts snipping clean straight shots from range. Hernandez is at his best before settling even happens. If Hernandez can get inside Johnson's rhythm early, force exchanges and make Johnson defend instead of lead, the fight flips in his favour. Johnson has been hurt before in these types of chaotic sequences, and Hernandez is exactly that kind of athlete who can capitalise hard once he sees damage. If Hernandez doesn't let Johnson get comfortable, the explosiveness and sustained pressure can crack the veteran before the fight becomes technical. Johnson is dangerous if it gets later on into the fight, but Hernandez's urgency in the first half of the fight might not get to the decision round. But Hernandez, my prediction: Alexander Hernandez by TKO in the second round. Fast start, heavy pressure, and a finishing sequence once he gets Johnson reacting instead of firing. Next fight on the card we have is Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. Alex Perez is 25-10, comes in as the more experienced guy at the elite level with title fight reps and years spent mixing it up with the best at flyweight. His last outing, a submission loss to Asu Amlabayev in round 3, showed both sides of his game: strong early mechanics, good low kicks, clean boxing entries, and then the tendency for momentum to flip when grappling scrambles drag on. Perez is still dangerous and technical, especially in the first half of the fight, but durability late and defensive grappling has cost him in key moments. Charles Johnson, on the other hand, is 18-7, has steadily leveling up, and his last fight was a TKO win over Lona Kavanagh. Highlighted the pace and volume to make it hard out. Perez will have chances early with his leg kicks, quick combos, and wrestling threats. If he can get takedowns and avoid scrambles turning chaotic, he can take rounds. But if the wrestling doesn't stick or Johnson keeps it standing at range, the fight favours Johnson over time. His movement, pace, and ability to accumulate touches can steal rounds even without big moments. If this becomes a technical 3-round battle where cardio and consistency matters, Johnson has the edge. My prediction: give me Charles Johnson by decision, maintaining range, winning the long exchanges, and outworking Perez down the stretch. Next fight on the card we have is Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. Nikita Krylov is 30-11. He's always been one of the chaotic light heavyweights who can look like a world beater one night and then get finished early the next. He's aggressive, he's dangerous everywhere, and he doesn't waste much time filling things out, which is both what makes him feel fun and what makes him feel vulnerable. The last fight was a reminder of volatility, as he got stopped in the first round by Bogdan Guzgov. Krylov is still a threat, especially with his grappling and ability to create scrambles. But the defensive lapses and willingness to exchange inside the pocket has cost him repeatedly over the years. On the other hand, Modestas Bukauskas is 19-6. He's coming off a huge statement win, finishing Paul Craig in the first round. Craig isn't exactly known for his durability on the feet, but what mattered in that fight was Bukauskas' composure and willingness to pick smart shots instead of chasing messy brawls. Modestas has grown a lot since his first UFC stint. He's cleaner, better at using his length, and way more selective about when he enters a pocket. That's important in a matchup like this because Krylov gives you opportunities if you don't panic and trade recklessly. The real key here is distance management. Bukauskas has the longer frame, the cleaner kickboxing game, and he's far less willing to get into the wild scrambles. Krylov, on the other hand, relies on chaos to create offense, and if Modestas keeps us at kicking and straight punch range, Krylov will eventually be forced to crash in. And that's where Modestas counters comes alive. Krylov always has the chance to scramble, wrestle or club and sub, by the durability concerns and recent form don't help the case. If Bukauskas stays patient, rushing entries, the fight starts to tilt heavily his way. So my prediction, give me Modestas Bukauskas by TKO in the second round. He uses range early, catches Krylov diving in once the reads are made, and just shows clean discipline and a disciplined stand up. So I do have Modestas Bukauskas by a TKO in the second round. Next fight on the card we have Gaethje Gaethje versus Andre Pimblett. Gaethje Gaethje is 9-1, is a fast rising prospect who's been making waves with his explosive striking. His last fight was a first round TKO over Tristan Vines, highlighted his biggest strengths with sharp timing, heavy shots, and ability to end fights quickly when he finds openings. Gaethje doesn't waste time feeling out opponents. He comes forward, mixes his hands and kicks well, and forces defenders to react instead of distracting for a fight at his stage. The aggression paired with his precision makes him extremely dangerous in the early rounds. Andre Pimblett is 10-3. He's a solid competitor with finishing ability of his own, coming off a TKO win over Nick Klein in the second round. Pimblett tends to build into fights, relying on clean setups and maintaining composure, while his opponents showed tendencies early. He's tough and durable, but his methodological style sometimes leaves him exposed to fast starters who can overwhelm him before he can fully settle in. The fight sets up a classic fast starter versus methodical grinder scenario. Pimblett has a path to victory if he can survive the first round and drag it into deeper waters, where his patience and striking efficiency start to pay off. But Gaethje's explosiveness, timing, and comfort is high pressure exchanges makes him a nightmare for slower starters. Once he lands a clean combination or catches Pimblett while adjusting the fight, could end abruptly. My prediction, give me Gaethje by TKO in the first round. He comes out sharp, pressures early, and capitalizes on Pimblett's slower start to finish before the fight could even get into the rhythm. So Gaethje by a TKO in the first round. Next fight on the card we have is Umar Nurmagomedov versus Deiveson Figueiredo, which I think should have been on the main card, but I guess not. Umar Nurmagomedov is 19-1. He's one of the most disciplined and technically sharp fighters in the division. His last outing was a decision win over Mario Batista, showcased exactly what makes him so dangerous. Excellent wrestling, control, tight submissions, and clean striking that accumulates damage over time without leaving him exposed. Umar isn't flashy, but he's highly intelligent in the cage. He picks his moments, maintains control, and punishes mistakes with precision. Over 3 rounds, he's likely to dictate the pace, keeps his opponent guessing, and force him to expend energy while he remains composed. On the other hand, Deiveson Figueiredo, 25-5-1, is a former champion and one of the most aggressive, heavy-handed strikers in the division. His fights tend to be wild and explosive, and his ability to finish quickly. He's made him a nightmare for opponents who try to slow the pace. In his last fight, he went the distance with Montel Jackson, showing he can also adapt at the fight in the fight more the distance and measured when needed. However, Figueiredo thrives when he's able to pressure, force scrambles, and land big shots in chaotic exchanges. And Nurmagomedov is exactly that kind of fighter who makes that extremely difficult. Stylistically, this is a classic striker versus grappler with a twist. Nurmagomedov isn't just a grappler, he's a calculated one. He can take the fight to the ground, avoid dangerous positions, and control the tempo, all while landing clean strikes, score points. Figueiredo's aggression will be met with patience, counters, and cage control, and over 3 rounds, Umar's discipline and fight IQ should outweigh the former champion's power. It's my prediction. Give me Umar Nurmagomedov by a decision. He'll weather Figueiredo early bursts, neutralize the big shots, and systematically win rounds through controlled positioning and smart striking. Next fight on the card we have is Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. Arnold Allen is 20-3. He's quietly become one of the most well-rounded and technically precise fighters in the featherweight division. His last outing was a decision win over Gaethje. He showcased his ability to stay composed against high-level strikers. He mixes striking and wrestling seamlessly, controls distance intelligently, and doesn't overcommit to risky exchanges. Allen thrives when he can dictate pace, pick his spots, and accumulate damage without leaving openings, making him a tough matchup for anyone who relies solely on aggression or power. Gene Silva, on the other hand, is a heavy-handed explosive fighter who doesn't need much time to make an impact. Silva's style is built around fast starts, clean combinations, and high-pressure exchanges. He's comfortable forcing scrambles, landing big shots in chaotic moments, and punishing opponents who try to find rhythm early. While Silva can be a little reckless at times, the same reckless energy is also what makes him capable of early finishes against opponents who start slow or leave openings. His last fight ended in a second-round TKO loss over Diego Lopez, but his power and speed remain dangerous, especially if he finds openings early. In this matchup, Silva's explosiveness versus Allen's methodological precision is the key. If Allen keeps Silva at range, pick his shots, and avoid getting caught in a storm or early punches, he can drag the fight into later rounds and use his superior control and fight IQ. But if Silva lands early clean combinations, pressures Allen into exchanges, and capitalizes on any hesitation, the fight can be over quickly. Silva's power and aggression makes him already a threat to end the fight before Allen can impose his strategy. So my prediction, I have Gene Silva by a TKO in the second round. He comes out fast, pressures Allen early, and looks to catch him in vulnerable moments before the fight finds a rhythm. Silva's explosiveness and heavy shots give him a clear path to get a second round finish. Next fight on the card we have is Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Natalia Silva is 19-5-1. Has quietly been putting together a well-rounded game that combines crisp striking with intelligent grappling. The last fight was a decision win over Alexa Grasso, showcased her ability to control pace, pick her shots, and add mix and takedowns when needed. Silva isn't the flashiest fighter, but she's a mythological, composed, and knows how to fight full-length battle without overcommitting. Over 3 rounds, she's likely to dictate the tempo, use her reach and precision, and frustrate opponents who rely on burst or aggression. On the other hand, Rose Namajunas is a former champion and has one of the most dynamic and creative fighters in the division. She has a sharp striking game, excellent movement, and is capable of explosive finishes if she catches her opponents off guard. Her last fight, a decision win over Miranda Maverick highlighted her technical mastery and ability to adapt mid-fight. However, Namajunas' biggest challenge here is Silva's disciplined style. She thrives when opponents make mistakes or leave openings, and Silva is very good at limiting those chances. Stylistically, the fight shapes up to be a chess match. Silva will look to control distance, mix strikes with clinch work, and avoid unnecessary risks, while Namajunas will try to create angles, force exchanges, and catch Silva in a sudden flurry. Silva's patience, fight IQ, and ability to grind out rounds should allow her to stay ahead of the judges' scorecards, even if Namajunas has brief moments of success. So my prediction, give me Natalia Silva by a decision. She'll control the fight from start to finish, landing cleaner shots, managing distance, and neutralizing Namajunas' burst of creativity to secure a smart professional victory. So yeah, Natalia Silva by decision. Next fight on the card we have is Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. Waldo Cortez Acosta is 16-2, is one of the most dangerous heavy hitters in the division. His last fight was a first-round TKO win over Gaethje, highlighted exactly what makes him so threatening and explosive power, fast starts, and an ability to overwhelm opponents before they can find their rhythm. Cortez Acosta doesn't waste time in the early rounds. He comes out aggressive, mixed crisp punches with well-timed counters and consistently looking for openings to finish. Once he lands clean, he doesn't let his opponents recover, making him especially dangerous against fighters who like to pressure early. On the other hand, Derek Lewis is a veteran who has one of the heaviest hands in the sport. He's capable of ending fights instantly with a single punch, but his style is very dependent on timing and patience. Lewis often relies on absorbing early pressure, looking for moments to land his power shots. While that works against many strikers, it can be a risky approach against someone like Cortez Acosta, who doesn't give opponents a chance to settle in. Lewis can be vulnerable to combinations, especially when he's forced to react under pressure. Stylistically, this is a clash of power versus power, but Cortez Acosta's aggression and precision early on gives him the edge. Lewis will be dangerous if he lands one of the biggest shots, but Cortez Acosta's ability to cut angles, mix strikes, and follow up with a relentless offense makes him a more likely to finish. Expect the first round to be fast-paced, with Cortez Acosta setting the tone, and the second round beginning the point where he capitalizes on openings to end the fights. So my prediction, give me Waldo Cortez Acosta by TKO in the second round. He'll come out aggressive, push the pace, and overwhelm Lewis with combinations and power shots until the referee steps in. Next fight on the card, the co-main event, after Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison isn't now. Thanks a lot, Kayla. I'm joking. We have, thank God this is actually the co-main now, Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Sugar Sean O'Malley is 18-3. He's one of the most dynamic and creative strikers in his division. His last fight was a third-round submission loss to Merab Dvalishvili. Showed he still struggles a bit against relentless grapplers, but his stand-up game remains elite. O'Malley's biggest weapons in his position and movement are ability to mix flashy techniques with highly effective strikes. He's excellent at controlling distance, setting up counters, and punishing opponents who overcommit. Over a full fight, his creativity and adaptability allow him to pick opponents while avoiding unnecessary risks. On the other hand, Song Yadong is 22-8-1, is a tough, experienced fighter with a well-rounded skill set. His striking is crisp, and he's dangerous in combinations. But his last fight was a technical decision win over Henry Cejudo, highlighted some of his limitations. He sometimes struggles to finish fights decisively against opponents who manage distance and pace well. Yadong will look to pressure O'Malley, land power shots, and push the pace, but O'Malley's movement and defense power shots and push the pace. But O'Malley's movement and defense awareness can neutralize that aggression. Stylistically, this fight favors O'Malley if he stays on his feet. Yudong will try and force exchanges, but O'Malley excels at using angles, feints, and counters to control the rhythm of the fight. Over 3 rounds, it's likely O'Malley that will land the cleanest shots, dictate the pace, and frustrate Yudong, preventing him from mounting sustained offense. The key for O'Malley is stay patient, avoid risky grappling scrambles, and pick moments to strike. So my prediction, give me Sean O'Malley by decision. He'll control the stand-up exchanges, land the cleaner, more precise strikes, and outpoint Yudong over the course of the fight with smart, calculated offense. So I have Sean O'Malley by decision. Now for the main event, we have Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the interim lightweight championship. Justin Gaethje is 26-5. He's one of the most feared fighters in MMA history, known for his relentless pace, power, and ability to absorb punishment while dishing out chaos. His last fight was a decision win over Rafael Fiziev. He showcased his ability to mix pressure striking with precise leg kicks and sneaky counters. Gaethje thrives when he can push the pace, force exchanges, and punish opponents who try to stand in front of him. His striking is violent and technical, but he's also very predictable at times. He funnels opponents into very heavy exchanges where his power is the most dangerous. On the other hand, Paddy Pimblett, 23-3, is a young, incredibly dynamic, and extremely versatile on the ground. While his striking is flashy and unpredictable, his grappling remains his strongest asset. Pimblett has a natural ability to scramble, create openings, and sap the energy of opponents, who get drawn into prolonged exchanges. His last fight was a third-round TKO over Michael Chandler and showed how he can pace himself, stay composed, and exploit openings once fatigue sets in. Against someone like Gaethje, Pimblett's best path to survive in an early storm, avoid big leg kicks and heavy counters, and steadily drag Gaethje into deeper waters. The longer the fight goes, the more Gaethje's defense lapses and forward pressure becomes exploitable. If Pimblett can avoid being overwhelmed early, his pace and scrambling transitions can wear Gaethje down, opening up strikes on the mat or in chaotic scrambles. Stylistically, this becomes a classic durability versus attraction matchup. Gaethje brings explosive early damage, while Pimblett brings late-round chaos and finishing ability when opponent starts to slow. So my prediction, give me Paddy Pimblett by TKO in the third round, weather the early power, increase pressure as Gaethje fades, and secure a late TKO once openings appear on the ground or along the fence. And that is it. Thank you for watching my predictions for UFC 324, Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel. It would be a massive help. Thanks for watching. Take care. Goodbye.